There's nothing quite like waking up late, scrambling to get to the airport, then having to check in bags, wait in lines, get through security, taking a tram all the way to your gate, and running to your actual departure area, and then realizing either you missed your flight or perhaps you might be that last person to board and everybody stares at you like this. So to help keep you from losing your mind on your next trip, we're going to answer the age-old question, or at least as long as commercial airline travel has been a thing, of how early should you arrive at the airport. And as someone who used to take anywhere from 30 to 50 trips per year for work, I've done it all, I've seen it all, and I've learned a lot about maximizing efficiency in the airport. So let's kick off today's video with giving you an upfront answer in terms of how early you should arrive at that airport. On average, for domestic flights, you want to consider arriving about 1.5 hours prior to boarding. And if you happen to be taking an international flight, then you want to consider arriving about 2.5 hours prior to boarding. And yes, I'm very likely one of the few people you ever speak with who tells you when to arrive at the airport based on your boarding time. And that's because most people tell you when to arrive based on your departure time, but because most airlines have differences when they board versus when they depart. For example, they might board 30 minutes early or 35 minutes early, 40 or even 45 minutes early before they depart. So because of those variances there, and also because it's very stressful to arrive at your gate while the boarding process is already underway, especially if they've already called your group number, it's much better to take your boarding time and then work backwards from there. You'll thank me and yourself once you start to implement that type of mentality. Now, to be very clear about this, 1.5 hours for domestic or 2.5 hours for international are a very good guideline for most people. However, that will likely leave some people very stressed out and other people probably lingering around too much and bored. And that's because there are a lot of other factors to consider. In fact, I'm going to go through 10 more factors that you really want to be aware of based on your travel habits and your preferences to really help you maximize your time further and see if 1.5 or 2.5 hours is truly going to be right for you. So here's thing to consider number one, and that is which time of the year is your trip. Now, naturally, a big part of this is seasonality based on where you are and where you're going in the hot times throughout the year. So of course, if it's prime time, summertime, and you're going during the weeks where everybody else is doing their summer vacations, be prepared to have longer wait times and delays at the airports, and of course going to and from the airport. Same thing with the winter season. If everybody goes skiing in Colorado during those prime peak weeks and you are too, again, same thing. Just be aware of the overall trends of where the major holidays are and the major travel times based on school schedules when all the students have breaks, therefore families tend to travel together. Thing to consider number two, which day and time are you leaving? If you come from a business travel background like I do, then you know very, very well that a lot of us travel first flights out on Monday morning to start our weeks out in the different states or cities wherever we're traveling to, and we tend to come back on Thursdays and Fridays. So if you happen to be leaving on those prime time early flights on a Monday, or even on like a Friday or something like that, where a lot of business traveler volume is coming through the airport, either going to or from town, then be prepared again for longer wait times and just getting through security and stuff like that. However, if you happen to be traveling later morning, early afternoon, or later at night on like a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday even, or perhaps even a Sunday, those tend to be less high volume times. So there's a lot less stress on those types of days, again, because all the business travelers are either already where they need to be or they're typically not traveling on weekends. So plan your schedule around when the biggest peak times are at the airport. Pro tip, if you happen to be traveling on a national holiday, there's a very good chance that you'll have a much easier experience in the airport. I've traveled a ton on Thanksgiving Day, on Christmas Day, on New Year's Day, and for me overall, the planes tend to be a lot less full because people are already spending time with their families and loved ones, and also the airports tend to be a lot less crowded too. So that's also a nice time to travel if you don't mind actually getting on a plane on those specific holidays. Thing to consider number three, out of which airport will you be departing? This really takes into account some first-hand experience that you'll likely want to have with your local airport. So if you're flying out of the major hub where Delta or United or American has a huge presence, and they also have a big international terminal, and they see a huge volume of passengers per year, that will likely require a lot more time in that airport than, for example, a smaller, more regional type of airport that might serve only more domestic flights without a huge international presence. Also keep in mind the interconnectivity from one side of the airport to another, one terminal to another, etc. So for example, to get from gate gates A to over to the gate C region, do you have to actually walk the whole way? Are there trams or sky links to move you very quickly? Are there people movers, elevators to go up and down to the mezzanine levels, etc.? Really understand your own layout of the airport there. That way we can understand and be prepared for how much time you just need to get from the entrance of the airport to the security to the gates. Number 4, are you flying domestically or internationally? I don't think I'll have to explain that one much further, but of course, once you have these longer flights of 8 hours, 10, 16-hour flights, there's a lot more room for things to go wrong and just take longer overall. Plus, layering on top of all that, you have the customs process as well. In different countries, they have a different process for you to follow to get in or out of their regions. For that reason, whenever an international flight is in question, always give yourself at least an extra hour for those types of flights. Number 5, do you have carry-on luggage or will you be checking bags? Or maybe you've got both types. In any event, you're probably very familiar with seeing those long check-in lines at those counters for people to check in their bags, ask questions, have problems, and on the list goes from there. So if you don't want to spend 45 minutes or longer, especially during the peak volume travel times waiting in line just to check your bag, then definitely be aware of your own situation. If you're checking in, add a little extra time as well in case you have to wait. Number 6, do you have any priority benefits? There are actually a number of credit cards out there like the City Advantage Executive Card, the Delta Sky Miles Reserve, and the United Club Card that all give you priority benefits for those respective airline and their itineraries. Now, we're not talking just about priority boarding on the plane, which is nice, but that doesn't help you get to the airport early. What we're talking about here is true priority at the check-in counters and or there's special security lines as well, because those can cut down on the amount of time that you need to spend navigating your way through the airport. And I remember very vividly a number of years ago when I flew with American Airlines on a very high traffic time of day, there were probably 80 plus people in the regular check-in line, while the priority line probably had 15 to 20 people. That saved me a good 40 minutes plus, and I was able to get to my gate so much faster because at the time I had the City Advantage Executive Card with the priority benefit, so I was able to use that line along with the first class passengers, etc. And now I still have status with American, so I had that same benefit even without the credit card. Massive time saver. Number 7, do you plan to enroll in an expedited identification, security, or clearance program like TSA PreCheck, Clear, Global Entry, Nexus, etc.? And by plan to enroll, I'm referring to doing so prior to your departing flight. So if you want to get to the airport extra early because you have an appointment, perhaps your in-person interview for Global Entry, whatever it is, make sure that you plan extra time to take care of that, either before you depart or even on arrival for some programs as well. That way we can get it done and mix it in with your regular travel flow. Sticking with this theme, number 8 is if you're already enrolled in one of these expedited ID or security or clearance programs. Of course, if you're already enrolled into one of these programs, then you're able to experience a much more heightened level of efficiency and greater time savings on your trips throughout the airport. But of course, also remember that the biggest part of this is predictability. You can predictably get through security so much faster, especially if you combine things like TSA PreCheck with Clear together. It's never a guarantee of I will for sure be through in 8 minutes or less, but your chances of getting through very quickly compared to the standard population without these programs will be much greater. Thing to consider number 9, are you traveling with other people and are they already enrolled in an expedited ID, security, or clearance program? This is huge. It's great if you're already squared away with all your efficiency programs, but if other people in your group do not have all those benefits that you do, then you'll be waiting for them anyway. So take that into consideration and leave extra early, arrive early to give everybody the amount of time that they need. That way nobody's going to be stressed out. And finally, number 10, do you want to eat or shop at the airport or perhaps even visit a lounge? This is especially important to consider if you have a flight around like 1, 2, 3 p.m. where you might arrive at the airport at 11:30, noon, 1 o'clock, basically around lunchtime, and you want to get something to eat. And with all the different credit cards on the market today providing you with lounge access, you might want to take advantage of that and also not feel like you're rushed to get in, eat super fast, and then fly to your gate. If you want to have a good lounge experience, I would give yourself at least 45 minutes or so in that lounge. So considering all those types of things, that's why I still say that on average, you want to arrive about an hour and a half prior to your boarding time for those domestic flights, or around 2.5 hours prior to your boarding time for an international flight. That way, when you arrive at the airport with at least 90 minutes or more to spare, you have plenty of time to use the restroom, get something to eat, go to a lounge, or even walk all the way down to gate D127 because your flight happens to be leaving from there. And with all that said, if you enjoyed today's video and believe it could benefit other people, then please help me get it in front of them by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and turning on those notifications. Also, check out the links down below in the description area to earn some more cash back when you shop online through Rakuten, to get $25 or more when you open a new SOFI checking and savings account and deposit just $10 or more, and to view my site with some great credit card offers that I've organized into different categories to help you find the cards that you like best. I thank you all for watching today's video. Hope it brought you some great value. I look forward to seeing you in future videos, and while you're waiting on my next upload, always remember that you are great.